Today, we are going to be speaking with two faculty in the Dietitian Nutritionist Program. The first is Dr. Hutcheson. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Nice to see all these smiling faces on board. I'm Deb Hutcheson, and I'm director of the Dietitian Nutritionist Program, and I welcome you all here tonight.
Before we introduce our second faculty member, do you mind telling us how you came to work in the field of nutrition and how you found your way to Pitt?
How did I find my way? Wow, long story. Anyway, this is a second career for me. So just to say, like many of our youth today, I was that person who wasn't sure where she wanted to go. And I started out in a business world, right? So as I was making my way through that, I realized, you know what? I'm not gravitating towards this at all. I felt more like I needed to be in a profession that was involved in helping and caring. And I had a kind of an interest in nutrition. So I explored that and I took my first class, and from there it became a passion. So I've never stopped being a student the whole way. I continued on through my undergraduate at the University of Pittsburgh. I lived in Pittsburgh. It was, the place to go for nutrition. And then I continued through my master's. And then eventually I worked. I was a clinician for a number of years, got my feet wet, got my clinical experience, loved every minute of it, made my way through different facets of the profession, through diabetes educator, through nutrition support, through general clinical practice, through management, involved getting politically involved and involved in licensure in the profession, so many different facets. And then I proceeded on to get my doctorate, because then I felt like I wanted to start to share my knowledge with others and grow in the research end. So from that point, I was met with the University of Pittsburgh, and they took me on board as the director of the programming here at the university, both the undergrad and the new grad program that we were starting. And it's been a very exciting adventure from there. And so that's how I made my way here, a long, circuitous route, but I'm here.
Those are the most enjoyable routes. It's the scenic way. We also have Dr. Cousins with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Nicole. Hi, my name is Tricia Cousins, and I'm an assistant professor and also the clinical coordinator for the Dietitian Nutritionist Program. Would you like me to tell my path, Nicole?
Yes, please do. Thank you.
So you may, if you've met me before, when you meet me, you'll be surprised that I started in criminology. I thought I was going to be a cop. And as I entered into Crim 101, I realized that wasn't the path for me, but I did know I wanted to be in the health professions. And so whenever I kind of looked into careers, I actually didn't know that, nutrition was a career path. And so I'm glad that you all are here, because I didn't know that. So you're one step ahead of where I was. And after that, I did my undergrad at IUP. I then moved to Cleveland for 2 years and did my master's at Case Western Reserve University. And then came back here and worked clinically in UPMC Shadyside and became adjunct professing for the program here. And as an adjunct, it eventually moved into a full-time position. And then recently, I am now officially an alumna of the University of Pittsburgh. I got my doctorate in 2020. So I defended my dissertation on Zoom, but I also, just like Dr. Hutcheson, can't stop learning. That's kind of how we function sometimes. So I like to specialize in maternal and pediatric nutrition. So if that is an area that you are interested in, that's kind of the classes I teach and, my research interests as well. So glad to have you all here.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and dive right on into the program. Would you start by just providing a brief overview of the program? Deb or Tricia?
You're muted, Deb.
Yeah, do we have our slides up?
They are.
All right. Just a second. My screen is not complying with me there. We had a few students coming in, so we got them all. So the Dietitian Nutritionist Program has been transitioning over the last few years into one of our new future education model graduate programs in the profession. And just like other healthcare professions, we're moving forward into competency-based education, which is an education that really prepares you for the jobs that you're going to be doing in the real world. And it's a model based on, can you not only have knowledge of those skill sets, but can you demonstrate that you can do the techniques and skills you need? And then can you apply them in the real world? And that's kind of the final step. And that's what competency-based education is, showing that you can actually perform in real patient populations in rural sites. So it's a very challenging pathway, and it is very exciting. So this pathway also at the University of Pittsburgh is an accelerated Master of Science program. So what does that mean? So for students who enter the University of Pittsburgh as an undergraduate freshman, they have the opportunity to identify that they would like to, become registered dietitians, nutritionists, and prepare and proceed through the program in a challenging course, because it requires dedication to a lot of science courses. And you can accomplish your goal to the master's level, which is now the entry level for our profession, in 5 years. So it's kind of an opportunity to cut 1 year off of your education and tuition costs while gaining all the knowledge and experience that you need. It's a very exciting program. You not only gain that didactic knowledge, but we incorporated many opportunities throughout the program to have experience in the field so that you can kind of grow and understand what's required of you. By the time that you're in your actual supervised experiential practice rotations, you are acclimated to the field and you are ready to perform in those real clinical sites.
So speaking of those clinical sites, I see here that we have 1,200 hours of hands-on experience in the program. What are students doing in these sites, and can a student's goals play into their clinical placements at all?
For example, there are 3 areas of the profession we give experience in. One is food service and food service management areas. We also look at community and public health areas, the second area, and also those clinical placements in healthcare institutional kind of practices, whether they be in inpatient, outpatient, ambulatory care sites. All of those come into play. So students not only get the opportunity to experience those 3 areas, but we have some opportunities for students to qualify and to apply to specialty rotations, where we have students who can, in their last semester, in the last year of the program, spend a 12-week kind of experience in an area where they see themselves and have experience to work in a particular kind of specialization in our field. For example, we have specializations in eating disorders, maternal and pediatric nutrition, community nutrition and public health, and also in other areas that we develop over time that will be offered. But right now we have some very specific areas that we have students qualified for.
I've noticed that specialty rotation list seems to change just a little bit every year. So my advice is, of course, to keep an eye on the website, because you never know what may be added next. These specialty rotations, is this unique to Pitt, or is this something that you might find at any dietetics program?
Actually, it is pretty unique at the University of Pittsburgh. Many dietetics program, as I said, there's 3 areas. They speak to all of those 3 areas, and students are qualified to practice in any one of those areas. And as students may know or may not know, in our kind of practice venue, medical nutrition therapy is kind of our bread and butter. That is what, dietitians are noted for. And many programs train dietitians specifically for medical nutrition therapy, or they may have attributes and faculty that speak to any one of those kind of professional areas, and kind of their whole programs are geared to that. At the University of Pittsburgh, we have such opportunities in our Pittsburgh area at the university and with UPMC. We have a very rich environment. We have a lot of experts and professionals, and we really take the opportunity to draw upon those individuals and the support systems they offer and make those connections to allow our students to have that kind of supervised experience to really get them job ready. Once, if you really have, come into the program and you've been working in a specialized area, or you've been volunteering and you have knowledge of that area, and that's something that excites you, and you say, wow, I see myself as doing this for a lifetime, chat with us, because we have a lot of opportunities out there. And these specializations then in the last part of the program are meant to facilitate that kind of student experience where they get a jump start on their career. So those actual supervised practice exposure as at a higher level than you will see in a general student, you actually get a chance to practice in your field of interest.
Fantastic. So there's a couple different ways to come into the program, and this gets a little complicated. So I wanted to call it out and see if we can help everybody understand this a little bit. We're designed to meet different types of students where they are in their academic journey. Could you explain to us who would be applying at each of these different entry points?
Sure. So as I spoke about our undergraduate accelerated master's entry level, that is for our student who is a freshman coming through the program and really getting all of their prerequisites, or even a lot of our students who are vying for another healthcare profession. Many times they will, going into their sophomore year, say, oh, this is what I really want to do. And oh, look, I've taken all these science classes. So they start to look at our prerequisites and say, oh, this all fits. And this is the kind of student that will come in at that undergraduate level, who can get all of their prerequisites in, and then move into the program in their junior or senior year and kind of flow through from the university. The post-baccalaureate, we also have students, that transfer from other schools and come in through that accelerated program. And that is not uncommon either. And we put one of our courses, our Intro to Nutrition, as an online course for many students who are interested in moving into the University of Pittsburgh or moving in from our regional campuses into the main campus program. And we make that available to you, and we try to facilitate transfer students also into that same accelerated pathway. So it's a good opportunity. Now, if you're somebody out there who has been participating in a career in another profession, maybe you have another degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate, and you've been working in a lab, and you're just like, nutrition has been my passion. This is what I want to do. And it doesn't matter what age, how long you've been working elsewhere, there is a pathway, and that is our post-baccalaureate pathway. Now, that pathway includes the year of undergraduate classes in our program that you would take to prepare to enter the master's level, and then 2 years of the master's level program. And then you would be, again, you would get all of your didactic, your experiential practice, and you would be ready to sit for the RD's exam. The final entryway is for students who are graduates of an undergraduate nutrition, accredited nutrition program called a didactic program in dietetics. And these students have the basic prerequisites that are included in the first year of our program. And they move into the 2 master's years of the program. So they would enter at year 2 of the program and then move through into the supervised experiential practice. And they would add to their bachelor's degree, a master's level degree in the profession, and then be eligible to sit for the registration exam.
Thank you. I know there's a lot here, and I know that especially for that first point of entry, getting all of the required courses in can sometimes be a challenge. There's definitely there's a good number of prerequisites, not an unmanageable number, but there's a lot of prerequisites and to squeeze into those first 2 years. For students who want to apply into the program during their sophomore year to start the program in their junior year, do you have any advice for them?
I would say meet with both myself and our admissions faculty, and we can help you plan forward. That's kind of what we do. We meet with you, we look at where you're at, we look at what courses you need to gather. And really probably the toughest part is that science-based sequence. If you have science-based courses already under your belt, it's much easier to facilitate a kind of faster movement into through the prerequisites into the program. If the science courses are something you haven't taken yet, they must be taken in a sequence, and we will work with you to figure out how that might happen, and the courses that you can take as kind of co-requisites at the same time, where we can accommodate them, how you can get them. And we really developed an expertise through working between the admissions and recruiting office and ourselves, and helping students facilitate into the program. So I would say meet with us early. We can help you in that planning process, and it doesn't seem so daunting when you see that plan sitting in front of you and you say, okay, here's where I'm at, here's what I have to do. It takes away all of the kind of fright, like this is overwhelming.
Absolutely. And something that I've definitely noticed about our faculty is their willingness to meet, and it's across the board. It's everybody. SHRS faculty are wonderful, and I love working with them. So come and talk with us, meet with us. We can help you get here as efficiently as possible. Deb's very familiar with the prerequisites and what's available at Arts and Sciences. So come and talk to us. We cannot encourage that enough. So earlier on, you mentioned the future education model. What are these standards? What does this mean for the program that we have met the standards?
This is really exciting. The profession has moved to the master's entry level, which puts us, just like every healthcare profession, moving forward, because the knowledge base, the evidence base in our professions continues to grow. And there's more and more information that we have to deal with and learn to work with our clients. Years ago, you would never thought that nutritional genomics would play a huge role in what we do. But today, through the explosion that we've had in science, we've learned so much on how to apply this to our profession. So there's so many new things that we need to incorporate that the profession said, you know what? We can't learn everything there is to learn at the undergraduate level. We need to move forward and add additional time and learning and abilities to our professionals to meet the needs in the healthcare environment today. So they decided to set a path. And when our accreditation bodies set that path, they weren't sure of how to go. So they kind of said, you know what, programs, why don't you help us develop the best educational models that you can? So each program that applies for this future education model programming designs a very unique program to develop the dietetic student into a professional. And we are monitoring them by gathering data, lots of data. And when you're in the program, you will find out you're recording a lot of information, but we're trying to figure out what's the best model, what's the best way that we can educate the students of the future. So not only are you in an educational program, you're in an educational program that's growing, developing, and figuring out what the future is. We're not working for today. We're planning for 5 to 10 years in the future. What is the future of nutrition practice going to look like? And incorporating those baseline skill sets. Many times, so the program's growing and changing as you're moving through it. Also, you might be out there in your supervised experiential practice teaching practitioner new skills, showing them new skills, because they haven't been educated in a future graduate model program. So you're really at the kind of the top of the food chain in nutrition practice when you come through an accredited one of these new future education model programs. So if you have the opportunity to seek that level of education, it will definitely enhance your future practice.
So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the curriculum here. There's so much more to dietetics than meal planning. The curriculum really, truly demonstrates that. Could you talk to us about the variety of topics that you cover in the program?
If it's related to health, well-being, food, nutrition, you name it. If you think about this profession, think of all the facets where food, nutrition, and health are involved, right? If we can talk about an individual's health, prevention, any aspect, nutrition is involved. So dietitians work in not only healthcare venues, they work in wellness programs, they work in sports, they work with children, with all age, with adults, with those who have developmental disabilities. There is absolutely no place in healthcare where you will not find a dietitian. Look at the community, every social service, every nonprofit that is involved in improving the outcomes of the individuals as they go through their lives are involved in improving their nutrition status. Even if you go to business, sales, food companies, research. So think about everything that a dietitian has to know. Okay, so we have to pack a lot of that into our curriculum. So if you can imagine, even if you take a topic, we try to break it down to the component parts that you will need to survive in any field in which you go into. So even though you may see a class that says professional development, or you may see a class that says entrepreneurial skills, an entrepreneur is somebody who markets themselves. This could be you marketing your business. This could be marketing yourself personally. So there are many ways that we use these skill sets and pack them into our program. So, kind of basics, medical nutrition therapy. You learn what is the evidence base of working with people to support their nutritional needs and help them prevent, mediate any kind of nutrition related problems or prevent future nutrition related problems. You learn, initially about how do nutrients work? What are phytonutrients? How do they fit into our plan? Is there one diet? What is a diet? Does that exist? How do we apply that to individuals? How do we help people move through counseling? We have to work with people. So nutrition and counseling methods seem to be a huge part of our program. We also have a huge research component. And if you think about it, when you work in this field, you cannot understand how to help people unless you know what it means to understand how health is maintained, how chronic diseases that plague our society develop. You have to also understand nutrition from outside of nutrition. You have to understand it from the perspective of medicine as well. So you may take courses where you learn about how diseases develop, how do they continue throughout the life cycle. And you have to, kind of use that information to think about, how does nutrition fit into that? How does nutrition work with these physiologic processes that are ongoing in the body? And how can we work together as a healthcare team? There's a lot of interprofessional work that goes on in the field. Also, if you know anything about our population today, we have a lot of medication use, whether it be prescribed medication for medical reasons or self-treatment, or by use of supplements or herbal medications. And all of those kinds of things we need to learn about in our field to really work with the population through the life cycle, from wellness to, the end of life. So it's very broad, Nicole.
There's enormous variety, and that makes for a very interesting day, right?
Correct.
So we also have a slide here with a couple of core course examples. Is there anything here, or maybe that I didn't list here, that you'd like to call out? Anything that maybe sets us apart or students really particularly enjoy? Any little tidbit?
Just to say, these are core courses that you take as an undergraduate, and I wanted students to have a clue of what that first year in the program might look like, to get the basics. And you can see pretty much nutrition related. So as you come in and you wonder, what am I doing with all these sciences that I've taken as prerequisites? This is what you're doing. You're applying it to the science of nutrition, and then you move into the program and you start to get that basics of how does nutrition fit into it. And then from there, you build on that and start getting some application and preparing yourself to then use it in the real world. So that's all I kind of wanted to bring out. As you can see, you do get into nutrition after all that study and science in your first year in the program. Because I know students come in and say, all I've taken is intro to nutrition. This is really, where does the nutrition come? It's there. All right.
That intro to nutrition is an important note too. That is a class that you can take before you are enrolled in the program. It's a great chance for you to get to know the field a little bit and to make sure this is the right path for you. I always like to say, try it before you buy it. Explore nutrition a little bit, take that intro to nutrition class. It's also a prerequisite. So, you're going to be using that. And it can't hurt to know a little bit more, right?
100% agree with you. That course, and also we have a food and culture with students can take before the end of the program, and also Intro to Dietetics is another course that you might take to help you get ready for the profession. So there are lots of opportunities to kind of get your feet wet and get started along that pathway.
So hopping over to clinical experiences a bit, we have talked about this, and some of my questions that I have here I've already asked, but let's talk timeline.
I was going to let Trisha talk a little bit about, since she's our clinical coordinator, let her fill you in on these kind of clinical experiences. This is where her area of expertise lies.
Trisha, will you talk to us first a little bit about the timeline? When do students start their clinical rotations? How much time do they spend in each rotation? What do we see?
Absolutely. And I will say that, our supervised experiential learning, is somewhat individualized. So I can give a general kind of path for a student, but it may look a little different for every student. So to reiterate what Dr. Hutcheson mentioned, we cover the three large tiers of the profession. So students will get exposure to food service management, in addition, community and public health nutrition, and then clinical nutrition, which is the most hours received come from the clinical nutrition portion of our program. So our supervised experiential learning can be sprinkled throughout the program. There can be times where you will have opportunities to get supervised hours all 3 years of the program, depending on independent studies, and some of our courses include supervised practice hours. Whenever you will see some simulation. But the bulk of the rotations and the supervised experiential learning happens in the 3rd year of the program. There is some didactic work in the 3rd year of the program, but the bulk of that time will be getting your supervised experiential learning hours, those 1,200 hours that Dr. Hutcheson mentioned. And so the timeline, if I want to talk about, all students are guaranteed when they're admitted into our program, into our medical nutrition therapy specialty. So these additional ones that are listed here are very limited capacity, and they really got to be the right fit for the student, the preceptor, and also availability of preceptors. As Nicole mentioned, our website may change year to year, and that can be us adding specialties. Also, maybe removing specialties if we don't have mentoring capabilities. And so, we always, as Nicole mentioned, I would highly recommend, those will change on a yearly basis. But if you are in the medical nutrition therapy, which is the bulk of our students, the students will spend the fall semester, spend a month in food service management, and then they will spend a 12-week rotation in clinical nutrition. In the spring term, they will spend another 12 weeks in clinical nutrition, and also then have time spent that I will assign additional opportunities that are important for your learning, such as shadowing days at McGee and the NICU, or shadowing days at Children's Hospital. And some facilities may not be able to provide certain opportunities, so you will additionally get experience in a dialysis unit, and also will get a 2-week rotation in a long-term care facility, which I am happy this year. I think we're going to be in person. It's been a while with COVID, so I'm looking forward to that. But really, it is 8-hour days that entire 3rd year of the program to really wrap up those 1,200 hours that you have to receive.
Wonderful. And you mentioned in your description there, you talked a little bit about some of the different places where students could be completing those rotations. Where else might they be in the Pittsburgh area? And are they ever traveling outside of the Pittsburgh area to get a rotation?
So the rotations are, assigned by the program. So in our program, which is something that is important to note, is you are not going to have to seek out your own opportunities. That is kind of the role as the clinical coordinator, is that I will be obtaining those for you. So that is one thing that is very important for your learning, and to get hours, it's hard to obtain them on your own. And all of our, rotations and placement sites are generally within 60 minutes of campus. And so all of those rotations, whether it be food service, community rotations, your clinical placement, or even a long-term care facility, dialysis unit, are all generally within 60 minutes of campus.
Okay. Is there anything else that I haven't asked about, but you think it's really important for students to know about these clinical experiences?
Our preceptors are wonderful. We have established a strong relationship with the dietitians in the Pittsburgh area, and we have very strong commitments as well. And so Dr. Hutcheson said we have strong relationship with UPMC, but we touch on every hospital or clinical area that is out there. We send our students to, and a lot of the preceptors are our alumni, which is a really exciting thing as well, because they understand what the student, is going through, the workload. And, that is one thing. We are lucky to be in an urban university where the opportunities are really endless. So if there is something that you are interested in, an area you want to pursue, shadow, we likely can find it in the Pittsburgh area. So I do like to mention that. So that's pretty much a nutshell what the clinical looks like.
Especially when you have such a robust group of alumni and a robust group of preceptors. They have their own networks. So when we're looking for something, we've got some good resources to tap into to help us find opportunities for our students. Okay, we talked a little bit about the medical nutrition therapy piece already. Deb, is there anything else you'd like to add about this?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. That is the basis of nutrition. And I think I covered that pretty well.
Okay, so let's jump into community engagement. What types of opportunities are available to students in the program?
We have a lot of outreach programs in our community. We have a community and public health coordinator as well, who reaches out to many of the service learning opportunities, different programs that are in the University of Pittsburgh or associated with the university, and also in the Pittsburgh area. One of our newest additions that you will see pictures from on this slide is our community engagement center that we have associated with the University of Pittsburgh and with our particular school, the School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences, that is in the Homewood area, which has its own demonstration kitchen. And in that venue, we've been able to reach out to the community and hold hands-on, kind of classes in that demonstration kitchen and its kind of education area for a variety of different groups, from kids who want to cook to adults with particular kind of clinical conditions that they need to mediate through nutrition. And it's been just a wealth of opportunity and outreach to us. We also reach out through many different programs with local agencies in the Pittsburgh area. Anything from, I'm trying to think, any of the normal kinds of associations you think, the American Heart Association, and the many of our cancer support groups that exist in Pittsburgh. Some of our healthcare agencies that serve the WIC population. The opportunities in community, just like the clinical arena, are endless. We have a lot of nonprofit organizations that pop up. We have a lot of organizations such as the Food Bank or other organizations that provide food boxes to needy families that we work with. And they come, they go. Some pop up and we work with them for a time period. Some are very stable and stay for long periods of time. We have other organizations that run kind of cooking programs to train chefs and cooks in the area that we work with. We work with some agencies that work with Native populations in the Pittsburgh area and other cultures in the Pittsburgh area as immigrants are coming in. We work with other clinics in the Pittsburgh area. So honestly, there is probably just as much opportunity out there. And as we have students with interest, we, arrange, if we can, to find experiences, or many times students bring them to us. We also have a really rich community to draw upon. So don't hesitate if you have an idea of somewhere you want to be, to let us know.
And jumping over to who are we looking for? So we've talked about what the program's like and what the student experience is like in the program. Now, who do we see coming into the program? What type of applicant do you like to see? Who's a good fit?
A really good fit is a student who loves science, loves to learn for the rest of their lives, because that's what it's all about. Nutrition is ever changing, ever growing. Mostly I hear when I read those letters that you put together to say, hey, this is why I want to be a dietitian. I hear that I want to help people. And you must have empathy. You must be caring. But again, you must be science-based, because nutrition is science-based. There are no two ways about it. You really, people don't really understand how in-depth into that area we are, but nutrition spans every science that's out there. So you really have to have that aptitude. You also have to be well-rounded. You have to have social skills. You have to have people skills. You have to like working with individuals and groups. You need to be able to speak in public. A lot of what we do is public presentations. So one needs to grow in comfort in that area as well. And if you're not comfortable, we will give you opportunities to develop that comfort. Believe me, it will come. Also, you need to have some experience when you're applying to the program. We look for you to volunteer, to get involved with local agencies, maybe your local food banks, maybe any of those kinds of opportunities, even local practitioners in the area. Maybe you'll help them table, maybe you'll help them in one of the health fairs. But we want you to gain experience so you know what the profession is about, because many times people outside the profession say, oh yeah, I want to be a dietitian, but they don't know what that means. It's a long, hard road, and we want you to know what you're getting into as a healthcare professional. We want you to have some knowledge of the profession. So we really ask for that experiential kind of component. If you're in our area, and even if you're not in our area, contact you. We'll help you reach out and give you ideas of where you might be able to find those experiences and some untapped resources to develop them. So we're looking for a well-rounded student who likes science, who likes to work with people, who wants to develop those skills, those social and interactive skills and communication skills, as well as gain experience have experience in the field.
So have you seen any students struggling to get those shadowing hours or anything, and any of those in-person introductions to the field the last 2 years?
Yeah, through the pandemic, it's been very challenging since many of our healthcare sites have not been opening up. We have had the opportunity within our program to have contacts. And many times when you correspond or contact us, we can reach out. We can tell you what's going on in the Pittsburgh area, or make those contacts for you. We also, and I think our last slide, I was coming up with the Student Dietetic Association, which is a great way to get involved on campus. And I'm going to let Tricia talk about that one, since she is the advisor for our Student Dietetic Association. But we also set up, when we can, shadowing experiences for students in different venues to get engaged. So please do not hesitate to reach out, because we know it's a little difficult in the healthcare environment, but it is opening up. We have many students now participating as volunteers in many of our local healthcare facilities, volunteering in many of the local food banks and nonprofit agencies in the area. So things are opening back up.
Okay.
There are also virtual opportunities. So that is one thing from the pandemic that has come up, is we do have a lot of opportunities to gain experience virtually. So that is another opportunity that we didn't have usually available 2 years ago, and now we do. So, and there's also ways that even just having conversations with professionals, setting up phone calls and things like that, even if we can't do the in-person, there are still other ways to engage and get experience. So we have those opportunities as well.
Thank you for that. So there's a few things students need to have in order to be ready to apply. We've talked a little bit about those prerequisite courses. There's a couple more items here. Something I am always getting a question about are these letters of recommendation. Who will you accept letters from? Who will you not accept letters from? Who do you prefer to see letters from? Do you have any advice?
We really appreciate looking at our students from different facets. We require 3 letters of recommendation. We really like one to be from academia, somebody who knows you in the academic environment and can support your ability to perform. We also like to have a letter from somebody who has been your supervisor, has seen you in a work experience or a volunteer experience, and give us some idea of your ability, to be timely, to be kind of a team player. We look for those skill sets. And as well, we like to have kind of a look at you from a leadership potential. Much of what we do in our profession is moves the profession forward. We're very engaged in our professional units. We have a lot of opportunities in the different specialty areas to be engaged in moving this profession forward in a multitude of ways. So we like to work with students' leadership skills. So we want you to come into the program demonstrating that you have had that experience in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be related to nutrition. It can be in any venue when you have had the ability to demonstrate those leadership skills. So we like somebody to speak to that aspect.
Wonderful. And then what are you looking for in that self-evaluation essay?
We really like to see just a brief background in why is this your passion? Why is nutrition your passion? And what experiences have you had in your life, either as a volunteer, in work experience, or into exposure to the field that make you a well-rounded candidate to move forward in this profession? We also like to see your aspirations. What do you want to do as a practitioner in this profession? What are your dreams? What is your passion? What is it leading to?
Great. And then my last question on this page, there's an interview. What can students expect from an interview with the nutrition faculty?
Your application gives us a lot of information, and sometimes we want to check things out, like maybe we don't understand something, maybe we want clarification, maybe we get excited by something we see in your application and want to know more about it. But the real gist of the interview is to get to know you as a person, to see your interpersonal skills, your communication skills, for the faculty to get to know you, because from that point on, as we get to meet you, we're already thinking about where are you going to go in the profession? How are we going to open up opportunities? So we're always thinking about your future, and we start that right at the interview stage. So it's not daunting to trick you, to make you perform. It's really to get to know a little more about you and see if our program is a good fit for where you want to be in your future and what we have to offer.
All right. So I always want to touch on that interview because everyone's always afraid of the interview. And to me, it's more of a conversation. We're not trying to trip you up. We just want to know a little more about you. And we want you to know a little more about us. I think that's also really important. So you said you were going to pass it over to Tricia for the Student Dietetic Association. Could you tell us a little bit about the opportunities with the SDA?
Sure, thank you. So if you don't, and some of your names and faces do look familiar, so I think some of you are already engaged in the Student Dietetic Association, but if you did not know, we do have an association, and it is an organization that we welcome you to join here at the University of Pittsburgh. Prospective students and current students are in this. I have perspective here since that's all of you currently. And we also do have students from our nutrition science program as well that engage in this organization. They meet bi-weekly with guest speakers about the entire profession. We have guest speakers who will discuss diversity and inclusion, we have a dietitian who works in the Army. So it's a wide range of guest speakers that we have come. In addition, it's a good way to network, to gain leadership opportunities. We have a lot of leadership opportunities, from events coordinator to being the president. So we have a lot of opportunities for you to gain some leadership. And there's opportunities prior to coming into the program. We have an undergraduate liaison, we have volunteer coordinators. There's a lot of positions that you don't even have to be accepted in the program to hold. And so if you are interested, I did include, we are pretty active on our Instagram, and that's kind of not only the Student Dietetic Association, but our entire program. So I think it's still called a handle, but nutrition_at_Pitt is where you can really find out what's going on in the program, see what our students are doing. And so I would suggest you add us if you haven't already. And if you are interested in learning any more information, you can email the SDA at sda@pitt, and that's at gmail.com, or you're more than welcome to email me. I'll put my email in the chat. If you have any more questions about the Student Dietetic Association, we'd be happy to have you.
Thank you. Now we are finally at the Q&A, and I see that because we have a question in the chat. One of our guests would like to know that if they have a guaranteed spot in the program, are the admission requirements still the same?
Yes, you will still go through the admissions process just the same way.
All right. Now, do we have any other questions? We've got 6 minutes, so go ahead and unmute yourself or type those questions into the chat.
Okay, I have a quick question. Will this recording be available for us, because I was kind of doing something at the same time?
Deb, is it okay if we share this recording?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we'll be able to share this with everybody following the event. It's going to take us a day or two to get it posted to YouTube so that it's in a spot that's easily accessible to everyone. And then we will email that link out to you.
Okay. Do you want our emails or something? I mean, do you want my email or something?
You registered for the event, so we have your email address, and we'll be able to, it'll go to the same place that you've been getting your confirmation and reminder emails.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Nicole, I wanted to tell you, we have 2 program students on board with us tonight. Haley, and we have Megan, if you want to call out there. And so if you have some student questions also, this is a really good time to connect with them. And I was going to ask maybe if Haley and Megan wanted to put quick emails in the chat box, and maybe the students could follow up with you, since the time went so quickly. Because I know they would love to chat with you, and probably not while I'm on the picture, right?
Looks like Gabriella has her hand up.
Hi, thank you. I was just wondering if you had any relevant experience from high school or letters of recommendation from those faculty considered recent enough to include in your application to the program?
It depends. It depends on the kind of project that you did in high school and what, the relevance of it. It's something that you can, we can chat about.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's another great question or another great reason to reach out and meet with the faculty. We have a question about graduate assistantship positions. Are there any available?
We do not at the master's level have graduate assistantships. In our department, they come at the doctorate level.
And we have a question about a medical nutrition therapy class. How recent does the medical nutrition therapy class need to be? Is it within 5 years, 4 years?
It needs to be within the last 5 years.
And what do you suggest students look into, like courses, websites, links? I've had others ask about podcasts even, if they are still undecided.
Still undecided about the profession. I would tell you one really great spot is go to the eatright.org, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and really go on board. They have a lot of information, a lot of podcasts and information on what is it like to be a dietitian. And those are some of the best kind of videos I've seen where they have dietitians on board who talk about what they do in the field. There's a wealth of information there, and that's probably where I would send you. Any other ideas?
Tricia,
In our chat. Diversifieddietetics.org is also a wonderful website to check out. So I would highly suggest looking at both of those websites, and they probably kind of guide you in some other, directions as well. But I think that's a good starting point. And then, we do post a lot of stuff on our social media as well and our LinkedIn. So you can also find some opportunities there as well. Nick, it looks like Nick might have his hand up.
Yeah, I was wondering, so you mentioned, like Deb, you know a lot about the prerequisites and making an academic plan. Should I email you, or is there someone else you'd rather me go bug?
Please email me. Start out there and we'll see where it goes from there. How's that sound?
Sounds
I'll
good.
put my
Thank you.
email there.
Thank you very much.
so we have two more questions about the guarantee. The first being, what is the guaranteed admission spot? For those of you who aren't familiar, when high school students are applying to the University of Pittsburgh as first year freshman students, in the past, they've had an opportunity to request a guaranteed admission into the program. You still have to meet all of the admission requirements, but you could have also earned that guaranteed spot in the program. That is what the guarantee is. And then we have another question about the guarantee. Can you not start internship hours in the freshman and sophomore years, even if you have a guarantee? And I believe the answer is no, you can't do the internship hours that are part of the program, for credit with the program, but there are opportunities to volunteer and get involved in other ways, especially through the Student Dietetic Association. So for credit, no, you can't start your internship hours before you've started the curriculum. There are some of those intro classes that you can take. There are volunteer opportunities. There's the Student Dietetic Association as well that you can get involved with in those first 2 years.
Great. Internship hours are really for specific activities, and you really need the baseline coursework to prepare you and exposures to prepare you for internship, because they're real life practice hours.
And Logan also has her hand up.
Hello. I just want to know how soon, like after you submit your application, how soon do you normally hear back?
Depends. We start looking at applications as soon as we come back from the spring semester. Now, we have a whole new process this year, so I'm very excited to see how quickly they turn around. Generally, we used to get the first applications at the beginning of February and then start turning those around. This year, I'm hoping they come out. Maybe, Nicole, you can shed light on that much earlier.
It is always possible. We are going to be launching that application for our upper division accelerated pathway students November 15th. You guys are all registered. So when that application launches, you will get an email saying, hey, it's live, you can go get started. We will not review any applications. We don't even send applications to the faculty until the start of the spring term, because we want to provide those fall term grades. So you can submit it over winter break if you'd like. The admissions team will process that in early January when we are all back in the office, and they will get it over to the faculty as quickly as they can is the goal.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
So I'm gonna graduate from a DPD program in spring, and then I was looking forward to apply fall 2022. So
Right.
when do I submit my application?
You can submit your application as soon as the grad application opens.
Which
Because
I think it is.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
most of our students are finishing up their prerequisites or their courses in the spring semester. So that's perfectly in line. And we start to interview you as soon as we receive those applications after the start of the spring semester.
Okay. And then since all my prerequisites are still being met, right? Am I gonna receive a notice of acceptance or something else before the end of the spring semester?
Once we review applications, we will set up interviews with qualified students. Usually we complete that application process by the end of April and the interview process. And then we have a kind of a rolling admission. When you're interviewed, probably within the next week, we're turning around our offers to the students. Once we fill the program, of course, we stop the process, but you will hear from us pretty quick after you receive an interview. Now, that admission to the program, however, will be conditional upon your satisfactory completion of all of the prerequisite requirements for the program.
And so, yes, you would receive a letter of admission if we were being admitted, but it would be a provisional admission, provided you complete your program, provided you pass those classes. Most of the students applying are still in progress with their prerequisites when they are getting that admission letter. So almost all students that we are issuing admission to have a provisional admission. And Logan asks, when are applications due?
Applications are due by March 15th. You can start them at any time, but the last date is March 15th. But we do start interviewing prior to that last date and roll those admissions probably through April most years.
Well, I want to take just a moment and say thank you all for joining us this evening. It is 5:04. We've got a couple minutes over. That's fine. We can keep answering. Well, I'm okay to keep answering questions. Deb, Trisha, I'm not sure if you are. So if you have questions, go ahead and type them into the chat or unmute yourself and ask. But I'm going to jump to the next slide and say thank you. If you need anything or if you have application questions, admissions is the best folks to reach out to. Deb and Trisha have both put their email addresses in the chat, and I will follow up with everybody after this session with the links that Trisha has been sharing in the chat and with everybody's email addresses as well.